Sorry about 906. You ever have a prop that wouldn't behave? Had that this morning. So here's what I was getting at. So our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, they're being added to the studio space now. So this will be over my shoulder. So this is over my shoulder traditionally. And so what I was trying to do, I swear to God, I was trying for like 10 minutes to try to get this somewhat balanced over my shoulder. And so, yeah, you could call this a blatant promo before we get into opening kickoff or not. But yeah, here's our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. And so Alliance Nurse Corps is going to be hanging out over my shoulder. So yeah, trying to figure out how to get something like this to be somewhat stable for 2 hours. And so that was kind of what I was doing, but I think I'm going to have to raise it a little higher and come up with something. So like right there over some of the scarves. But yeah, that was the battle I was fighting this morning before we were getting into the show in and of itself. So bringing in Jarrett here. And yeah, so fighting with props on a Tuesday. So that's what we were getting into, Jarrett.
Let's get started the day then, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. What I wanted to do was, in addition to all of the other news and everything, we got stuff from Major League Soccer that we didn't get into, anything that's left over from Atlanta United and Philly that we didn't get into. Last night, you and Maddie and Jason got to watch the 2's and Philadelphia Union II. And we got into the discussion yesterday, so I guess technically this will be opening kickoff, and it might be somewhat elongated, but that's just kind of how we go. Here's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code. Don't forget, you click on the QR code, and it takes you to Kickoff Coffee. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. They get 15% off you get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth game, youth initiatives that they have earmarked. Just ask our friend Melissa Ortiz about it. And that's what you get with the Kickoff Coffee. So 15% off at Soccer Down Here 15. You use the code at checkout. They take 10% and reinvest it. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yesterday, we got into a bit of a prolonged discussion about officiating down here, reffing down here that we normally have with Bart. And we know that because of the events that happened on the weekend involving Philadelphia and Atlanta United, that we were going to have elongated discussions about the rules of the game. And we had a really cool philosophical discussion about what needs to change, not necessarily getting bogged down into the actual act that was called, but what do we do to carry the conversation forward? And so that is what we like to do here on occasion. So last night, Jarrett, Maddie, and Jason were at the Fraction with the 2's and Morning Rich. So yes, Rich is in this morning, and he's hanging out. Yes, and so I did see this, Rich, on the Twitters. Not a bad 2 days for the Philadelphia Union in Georgia. I will stipulate before we get into this discussion, and since Jarrett was there, and he got to see it firsthand, that there were 2 amazing free kicks, some of the best free kicks that you'll probably see all season long in MLS Next Pro. I will stipulate to those events. Absolutely will stipulate to that. But last night, there was stuff that was off the rails when it came to the officiating. And that's how I'll get into this discussion, Jarrett. So, Jarrett, I will I have a play that is a microcosm of reffing down here.
Well,
go for it.
It's not just so we had Steve Cook after the game as well, as he talked about, as the players talked about. I think it was Matthew Edwards said, Philly's first to every second ball.
Mm-hmm.
They were beating them to that second ball. At the risk, and they were trying. Atlanta was trying to thread the needle a bit.
Yeah.
When they were talking about it,
right?
Because they haven't played in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I think they felt a little sluggish after a 3-week break, and they almost scored in the second minute. Ron Mendez almost puts one away, and then you give up. Like the first goal for Philly too is really nicely worked. Like it's a corner that's cleared away, and Vasquez puts a perfect cross back in.
To Chris Donovan.
Yeah, Chris Donovan it's perfect. Like Donovan wraps his head around it and puts it in the back post.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing anybody can really do about it.
Right.
And I think I know where you're going with this, in that the non-call in the 45th minute.
Yep.
But more to me, more egregious was the management in the second half.
Yeah, and that's
the game.
Like,
and here's the thing: you can look at one play, but it's not why you lost.
No.
You lost because Philadelphia put together 2 outstanding free kicks.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I've pushed back on this over the last few hours, is I think it was what used to be Philly's SB Nation blog, which pour one out for basically all of the SB Nation blogs, because
No
Fox
doubt.
Media is a bunch of handsome head morons.
Yes.
That screwed up a wonderful thing they had because they don't like happiness or success. But they described Murner as having a nightmare. He didn't have a nightmare. That's the only thing I pushed back on in that game.
Yeah.
The first goal is a very good header. The second goal, Burner actually makes the save, and then the rebound literally pops up right to the guy's head, and he's able to head it in.
Edward Davis.
Edward Davis. It just pops up right to Davis' head, and he hits it in. Mm-hmm. Third goal is an outstanding free kick where it gets wrapped around the wall really nicely into the far corner. Fourth goal, at that point, you're pushing forward. It's a 1v1. Burner gets the block with his leg and then has the misfortune of the ball popping straight up with topspin and just rolls in. And then the fifth goal is, if you had had a person in a morph suit, we use this analogy again, and walked the ball into the top corner, you would not have placed it any more perfectly.
Right.
Ultimately, my issue with last night with the official was the management in the second half. And it wasn't just it wasn't just like all the calls went one way and they didn't go the other way. There were 40 fouls in this game.
Yeah.
41 fouls. There were 41 fouls in this game. 40, so it wasn't just this is not a one-sided discussion of one team was screwed and the other one wasn't.
No.
Her management was so bad though. Like, you had guys, I got really pissed personally when you had 4 minutes of stoppage time, because the game was cooked at that point and the temperature was boiling over, where guys were starting to throw cheap shots at each other. And she's picking random moments to get up and to have really intense conversations with players. And then other times she's not. It's hard to tell who's in trouble and who's not. It's hard to communicate with her. She's ignoring some people but yelling at others. And man, it was just really poorly managed. I hated the 4 minutes of stoppage time, because at that point, it's one of those games where, yes, there's probably been 5 minutes of stuff. Yeah. You could have gone to 6 minutes in that second half with all the goals and subs. But the game's done. It's boiling over. You already don't have control of the game. Just do a minute. Now you don't even have to do that. At 90 minutes, just call it. Use discretion is the better part of valor in those situations if you're the official.
Yeah. Just
blow it. Because with 4 minutes, both teams were running up the chances of having someone sent off. Yep. Matias Gallardo was really close to getting sent off.
Mm-hmm. For random reasons, apparently.
It was like he got fouled a couple times and he got up talking, and then she talked to him. Then he committed a foul, got a yellow card, and it was a yellow card tackle. Yeah. And then she went over and kept instigating conversation with him. Then he got, I forget who it was from Philly, basically threw a shoulder into his back.
Right.
And then she got up and started reprimanding Gallardo, who had just gotten trucked, and then started reprimanding the Philly player. It was boiling over to the point where it was damn near irresponsible, in my opinion, having 4 minutes of stoppage time. And this is somewhere where having Bart on would be nice, where I can ask Bart about it as an official. Just use common sense in those situations. You can bend the rule book a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's boiling over. Players are angry, and then there was pushing and shoving after the match.
Mm-hmm.
It's boiling over. Just kill the match.
Yep.
Look, you want the overarching theme of that night is that Philadelphia was clinical in the final third and Atlanta wasn't. Atlanta actually put together some really good combinations in the first half, especially at the end of the first half. They looked really dangerous.
Yep.
They had some moments where they were able to get free down the sides, but they were always lacking the final product. Philly did not lack the final product. You want the overarching theme of that game? It's not necessarily. Yes, it's a possible foul on Luke Brennan, and it's a dog-so situation if you give that foul, and maybe that's why she swallowed the whistle. I don't know.
Right.
But the overarching theme is that Philly was clinical and you weren't, and it was kind of an inverse of the Carolina core game, because we saw Atlanta be incredibly ruthless in the Carolina core game before their 3-week break, and we saw Carolina core waste chances. Sometimes you are the bear, sometimes the bear is someone else, and you are you. And then you wake up to find that your liver has been removed by said bear. And that was what it was last night.
Yeah.
It was, you hadn't played in 3 weeks, you got out there, and you were not the first to ever lose balls. You were not ready to fight everybody the same way Union II were. You'll have fun with this, Rich, I promise. And I don't mean that sarcastically.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. Philly Union II isn't the same as Philadelphia Union. They can be scrappy, they can be antagonistic, but similar to the Baby Bulls of Red Bulls too, but they're better on the ball, I think, in terms of like how they'll build up play than the first team. Like we saw with the first team, like Kai Wagner coming up and creating in those the metaphorical half-court offense is a thing that the first team can do. I think Philadelphia Union II is better in the metaphorical half-court offense. Like if they have to be, like they can be very good in those moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, you weren't as clinical as they were.
Yeah.
And they were technical. They did their job. And the same thing, they did the same thing that you'll want to see Atlanta do, and what we saw Atlanta do against Carolina, which is, you have them down for the count. Okay, hold them down until the bubbles stop coming up. That's what Philadelphia did.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the one call, okay, yeah, right on the stroke of halftime, Luke Brennan leaves 2 guys in the dust. Last one comes from behind, tries to get shoulder to shoulder with him. Brennan goes down the edge of the box. It's arguably the last defender. Could have been a dog so red on the edge of the box, would have been a free kick.
Right.
It wasn't given. One, you want to get petty. At least one of the free kicks that Philly scores from is, I don't know where the foul is. I don't know where the foul comes from in that moment. The overarching theme of that game is that Philly was clinical tonight and Atlanta wasn't. The understory on it is, it was bad officiating from the center ref. I think the bigger issue was that she didn't control the game worth an absolute damn, and it was pathetic.
Right.
Because you had people on the edge of getting sent off at times. You had weird moments where she was communicating inconsistently. At some point, like at halftime, the Atlanta players and coaches tried to come up and talk to her, and she just turned everyone away.
Yep.
And was very, very clearly body language wise, antagonistic about it. Like it was just a weird game from her, man.
Yeah.
So
here's the play in question.
I mean,
So here's the play in question, and we have
to blow out people's ears again. I know, but
I know. Well, what I tried to do was EQ it a little bit, and then not take it as high.
Well, it's nothing you can do, Jake, because Jason has a coronary.
All right, so here's we put out the bat signal. See when Bart can drop by. This was 1-0 Union into the first half. And here was the play that kind of, might have been something of a microcosm about what was going on. So here was Atlanta's chance late first half to go after an equalizer.
To the top of the 6, Morales wins the header. Westfield puts it back in, headed away again a second time by Moore. Brennan gets a touch. He takes off. Luke Brennan trying to get in behind. Going to get run down, though. Brennan's got to dribble through. He does. He's dragged down at the top of the 18, and there's no foul. Unbelievable, no foul. Brennan cut through 2, drew contact, no foul. Could have brought in a red card for dog-so. Nothing called. Atlanta tries again down the left. Edwards inside to Aramis. Back to Edwards. Over to Caden Moore. There's absolute contact as Brennan took off. Moore overhits the pass for Hernandez. Moore's had a good half. And that'll do it. That's the end of stoppage time. 2 minutes on the dot. There's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of Atlanta players going to ask about the Luke Brennan no call. Referee waves everyone off, doesn't want to talk to anybody.
And that's the prerogative of a center ref in that situation. You don't have to talk to anybody. And, if you're getting crowded, it's just like, nope, get away from me.
And that's the thing is, so again, I want to say, could you have gone there? Yeah. My bigger issue with her is the way she managed the game, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
But again, it needs to be drilled home that those issues don't need to overshadow the fact that Philly were clinical in the final third and Atlanta wasn't. I don't want that to be lost here.
No.
I really don't. I don't want it to turn into a thing where it's just about the official doing one thing or the other. No, Philadelphia were clinical and Atlanta was lacking that final third touch. Did you have some really good performances, honestly, and all that? Burner wasn't bad, man. He wasn't going to get to either one of those free kicks. He makes the stop on a one-on-one. The ball hops straight up in the air and spins in.
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Yeah. And so, like I said, going into this, I wanted to stipulate that Union II had two very, very pretty free kicks. And their
first goal's really well worked.
Yeah.
Great recycled set piece.
Yeah. So I wanted to take the actions that scored and put them to the side. Because, like I said, yes, we will stipulate everything that you had mentioned here in kickoff about what happened last night involving Philadelphia Union II putting up a number. And by the time it was over, it was 5-0, beating Atlanta United 2, first time in 3 weeks.
Yeah, they earned it.
Yeah, they did.
100%.
Yeah. And so, and then there are some individuals that we really need to be paying attention to for Union II coming forward. As
Westfield needs to be on top of your list for that. And I know Chris Donovan came down from the first team and scored 2 goals. And Donovan was really good. Westfield got asked to consistently deal with Luke Brennan, and he did. I think he committed a couple fouls, but it was never anything egregious or never anything that's, you're like, oh, he's in trouble. He's at risk of an orange card kind of thing. Luke beat him a couple times and he had to recover. He stonewalled Luke a couple times. It was a really good battle.
Mm-hmm.
Luke worked his ass off, and Westfield worked his ass off. Westfield was outstanding last night in that game.
Yep.
Vasquez, outstanding in that game. It was really well done. That's the thing is, I just do not want it to be lost in the shuffle of all that when we talk about it. The game shifts when goals change games.
Yeah.
I think when it's because you get 2-0 with the save that gets headed back in, the ball pops back up.
Right.
At that point, it's kind of weird because you were looking for the equalizer at the stroke of halftime. Atlanta was on the front foot in the end of the first half. You'd started to find combinations because what you ended up with that in the game, and it was kind of fluid formationally and positionally for Atlanta. But Luke Brennan is playing on the right a lot of times. He's going to put his heels on the right side. You're going to load the left side. You could switch to Luke Brennan and let him do things 1v1. But you had Matthew DeJane, the teenager, who started up top, but he floated a lot to the left-hand side. It was Matias Gallardo, who ended up kind of floating at the top at times, and Alan Carlton playing to the 10. And you start to find some really good combinations with Carlton, Gallardo, and DeJane.
Mm-hmm.
And Noble Okello when he would get forward, or Javier Armas. Armas and Noble Okello were solid in that midfield.
Yep.
Trying to play through. And there are instances at the end of the first half where they really started to find that, where you thought, okay, you didn't score before halftime. You might feel hard done by that. That's understandable. But you got something to work with here. But then you give up a goal right after halftime. Then you give up kind of a questionable foul at the top of the 18 that leads to a free kick that's perfectly placed. Now you're in hell because now you're throwing bodies forward, and then you give up a fourth goal because you're throwing bodies forward.
Right.
And they're able to play through. And Efrain Morales, who was phenomenal when he had to be in the box.
Right.
Efrain Morales when he was building his creative character, he did not pour all of his points into raw speed.
Right.
So he was not able to chase down Chris Donovan. Donovan scores. And at that point, at that point, the avalanche is here. See, Bart has joined us. And,
yes.
Yeah. So, Bart, I guess here's my first question for you. Because of this was my criticism last night. Aside from just the game management, the second half, and the weird communication, it's 5-0. Both teams are on the edge and possibly looking at people getting sent off because they're getting chippy. Why do you need 4 minutes of stoppage time when the game's done at that point and everybody's boiling over and the referee doesn't have control? Why don't you just call a game?
Because someone will get mad that we didn't give the proper amount of stoppage time.
It's an annoying answer, but it's a completely fair one, and I understand it.
Because someone probably from a suburb of Philadelphia, because they don't actually play in Philly, despite what they say, would probably get mad. Oh, no. Philly gets no grace. Sorry, Rich. Y'all's fans been tweeting a whole lot recently, so we're not being nice. Tweeting about attendances when y'all only can get 20,000 people into a stadium, and you're mad that we got 35,000 and called it a sellout, even though it wasn't. But yeah, to your point, Jarrett, like this is something that I deal with too. Is when you get to a certain level, you are expected to play the full match, right? We saw this at the World Cup when you're having 7 to 11 minutes of stoppage time because they want to make sure you're playing the full allotted 90 minutes. And if you don't, some coaches will get very annoyed. And we know that if there's one thing that Philadelphia coaches and staff do very well, it's get aggrieved when they have no right to really be aggrieved.
So my follow-up in this goes to the larger point from last night, and it may completely devolve into repping down here from the weekend in general. But when it comes to game control, and you have it is a very uneven way of calling a match. The match last night had over 40 fouls called, and it was 24 for Atlanta United II, 17 for Philadelphia Union II. I cannot recall the last time that there was a match that had that many fouls called, period.
There were a lot of fouls, yes.
So 41 fouls called, and the idea of game management here is what I wanted to get into, where you have unevenness in the distribution of calls. You want to whiplash from one manner of calling a match to having to feel like I guess you have to overcorrect and go back the other way. And then you're looking at officials that will make a call that the rest of the civilized world may sit there and go, I don't know how you came up with that information to make that call. I mean, I don't know if it's just not getting the proper feedback from your ARs about, no, that was not what happened. Foul should only be going this way and not the other way, as you call it. I mean, I guess addressing the idea of game control and game management in a situation where it is a very hot-tempered environment, I guess is where I'm getting at here when you come to the unevenness of calling a match like last night.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question that a lot of people would ask a referee, and it's something that I think a lot of people who may not be in that center might not fully understand, is that the fouls don't exactly happen the same way in the same manner across the field.
Yeah.
And each team is put in certain situations and circumstances that may either produce more fouling or solicit more fouls.
Right.
Philadelphia does play a style of ball that is a little bit more direct and quick, which oftentimes forces teams to make quicker decisions defensively, right. Meaning you might be fouling a lot more.
Yeah, professional fouls and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. And conversely, we know that Philadelphia isn't afraid to foul, but when you're in control of a match, or when you feel like I don't know if they were in control of the match, that's probably not the best way to put it, but you know what I'm saying? When you're at 5-0, right? Yeah. You have a little bit more control of the match the way it's going. You're less likely to foul. That's just how this goes. And so I fully understand why you're looking at it and going, one, there were a ton of fouls called in general. That you never want to see. What was the total? 41 fouls. Yeah. 41 total fouls is unacceptable, to be quite honest. As a referee, that is a lot. That probably needs to be addressed from the league higher up. At this development age, that's a lot of fouls, period. And, I don't know if you can, as an official, look at yourself and go, oh, I did a great job when, you had 41 fouls and somehow no one's sent off. Because at that point, persistent infringement was everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta with 25 fouls, hard for me to look at that and go, okay, well, we didn't deserve more than what we got from a yellow card perspective. Same with Philadelphia at 16. It's just a lot of fouls in a game, and it's concerning that no one was truly reprimanded for that.
So Jarrett, last night, obviously with the 41 fouls that were called, I mean, you were there. Was it as an even distribution? Is it picking out an individual? Okay, it's your turn to get a call. Your turn to get a call. What was it like out there?
I mean, I think it was kind of spread out. Like I said, at the end of the game, Matias Gallardo was basically John Wick after he gets after they put the call in on him, and he becomes like, you have an hour before your excommunicado. It's kind of turned into that where he was getting mollywopped a bit.
Yeah.
But he was also dishing it out because I think he was frustrated.
Yeah.
Because I think, and this is the thing about it, is like Philly wants to maintain their clean sheet, and they have every right to do that. You want Atlanta to do the same thing. Again, we did the same thing with Carolina Core.
Mm-hmm.
It matters. It matters to goalkeepers because they're psychotic. That you want to maintain that clean sheet. So, like, if Atlanta was starting to break, they were committing those fouls. But man, that was and Bart was saying before you came on, like, it was just the communication was so very weird in that game, where there were times where she would stop play and have a conversation with somebody.
Right.
There were some times where it was a very one-sided conversation, and other times where it was very two-sided. And she was letting players talk back. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes when they would talk back, she would shut them down. You could see her getting very demonstrative. It was just, it was a weird communication, kind of like an inconsistency of like, where I kind of felt like players were sometimes wondering, like, am I allowed to talk back to you or not?
Yeah.
And then when you initiate conversation, then you're shut down and you're kind of wondering, okay, what's my conversation and communication level here? So Bart, let me ask you this. In the times that you and the individuals that are inside your reffing down here circle, you might have your conversations about, say, these kinds of activities and how you as a center ref handle yourself on the pitch. If there's a foul called, do you guys have a discussion about conversations with players and the give and take and getting their point of view and letting them get their steam out of their system so it doesn't boil over? Do you have these kinds of conversations?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think at any level you have to allow players to not vent frustration in a unpositive or beneficial way, but they're allowed to ask. They should be allowed to say, what did I do wrong?
Right.
I had an example this weekend of a girl who felt like she was being fouled a lot, and I explained to her why she wasn't, and still called fouls in her favor.
Right.
And there was a situation where she felt like she wanted a penalty kick, and she said something, and this was after the third time I had nice conversations with her. Mm-hmm. And so at that point I said, we're not, you don't get to just complain every time something doesn't go your way. And so I said, what, I addressed her. I said, well, what did you want from that? And she said, penalty kick. And I said, no, there wasn't, a foul. But you do need to allow players to have some sort of dialogue with the referee, because it's also constructive for a referee to understand what the players on the field may want or think. Now, at this MLS Next Pro level, when the players are developing and, at various levels of development and skill,
right.
Especially with Atlanta United being clearly not very well developed or skilled right now, it's hard to fully take that in because they're still trying to figure out what type of game they want to play.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to kind of set your standard. But as a referee, you need to be a little bit malleable in the way that you view the game. And, I have a certain way that I view the game. And sometimes both teams will come out and play a way that I'm like, well, this isn't how I like it, but they're both doing it.
Right.
And, you kind of have to adjust as you go as well. So the players need to adjust to the refereeing, mainly because the referees, in theory, are trained to keep a certain level and standard of play. But the referees also need to be aware that, you have to kind of adjust and adapt to whatever game that you're refereeing at that time.
Yeah.
And that's where that conversation and feedback can be very helpful.
Yeah. Go, Jarrett.
To be fair, though, I do want as much as I've been very critical of her game management from last night's game, I cannot.
It's not why we lost 5-0.
Well, I spent 15 minutes yelling about that already this morning.
Yeah, exactly. No, I heard you.
Yeah, I wanted to make that very clear. That's how they lost. They lost because Philly was good.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine how exhausted she must have been when she sat down after the game. Because she called 41 fouls. She had to talk to everybody on the field. She had to be mentally absolutely whipped after that game.
Yeah.
It's
she put in a lot of work. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. I know that we're at like the 2-minute warning for you, Bart. Because you said 15 minutes, and so I'm trying to keep the clock.
I might be able to push it to number 5, but
okay. Well, when it comes to the idea of all different individuals finding their limit and going over, and it's like, okay, I've got dude number 1 and he gets right to the line. Okay, that sets up dude number 2 and he knows where the line is. That sets up dude number 3 and they know where the line is. When it comes to administering a card for someone, say, outside of that line, outside of persistent infringement. So I guess this is almost a 2-part question. When you look at persistent infringement, do you have a set limit, or is it almost team-based in your mind going into a situation? It's like, okay, I know what they do going into a situation, and I have a gauge in my head of, okay, they've hit that limit. Now I start doing persistent infringement. And are you also, and those of you that consult with you and have your conversations, are you guys of a mindset to sit there and it's like, okay, I've seen the same foul from different dudes over and over again. And if there's like a 4th or a 5th individual that fouls for the first time and it's the same kind of foul, then do you go ahead and give a yellow in that situation too? When it comes to persistent infringement, how do you handle
that? It's tough because I forget who I was talking to during the halftime meetup about the Jose Martinez issue. But that one we can get into at another time. But they said, if you say no more, then once you get a yellow card, they're like, the next foul should be another yellow card. And that's not how this works. I'm not saying it totally resets, but the reality is not every foul is the same. Not every foul is was it you, Alex? Thank you. Not every foul is the same. And persistent infringement is persistent infringement is a weird one because you may not commit the same type of foul or the same level of foul within however many fouls you get in that persistent infringement. And so, you may commit 1 or 2 fouls that are kind of just like you kind of clipped them when they ran by, or maybe you grabbed them a little bit. And then your 3rd foul is much harsher. And you still may put it down as persistent infringement as opposed to unsporting behavior or whatever the way that the league code said at that point in time. Yeah. So it is difficult because it's not a complete and it's not a complete and total absolute. Okay, if you hit 3 fouls, then that's persistent infringement. Right. If you hit 4 fouls, if you hit this many fouls, and it certainly doesn't necessarily reset after you get your yellow card. But the goal of a yellow card is to caution a player, so they should understand that their fouls need to play in more control. And I think that's something that if you look at last night specifically, neither team seemed to be playing under control when it came to fouls, at least in the opinion of the referee.
Yeah, and then the other element before we let you go is mass confrontation.
Yeah, get rid of it. I'm sorry. I'm tired of watching players crowd referees after every single thing that happens because they feel like the referee has somehow told them that they're no longer allowed to eat ice cream for the eternity of their lives. It's like, what are we doing here? They told you
that's
that you
fouled
mass
confrontation. If you told me
say that, Jarrett.
If you told me I can't go to the Carvel machine, I'm going to.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that is a justifiable mass confrontation. Telling you that you fouled someone is not.
Yes, agreed. Rugby rules are my favorite, and Ben Rich, the hockey rules as well. It's the same thing. The captain can talk to the ref. Otherwise, you don't. No, you don't.
And I'm really hopeful, Jarrett, that we talked about this, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, the modifications to the laws of the game coming up about the captain's armband now being a required piece of equipment.
Yeah.
I am hopeful that is something that leads to that, because I agree that outside of like the player who physically committed the foul or got fouled and the captain, no one else has any business talking to the referee. Y'all weren't involved. This doesn't concern you. Why in the world does 3 players from Philadelphia's bench somehow get to talk to a referee about something? That's why I didn't look at the report, but I feel like, on Sunday, Jim Curtin got a yellow card plus like 3 other players, it seemed like, at the end, when they got mad that after time had expired, they weren't allowed another attack after time had expired. But, it's one of those things where I agree that the captain and maybe the player who was involved in the actual foul are the only players who should be talking to referees.
I'm fine with that, especially when it's referees who, it's one of my favorite things that good refs do when they're communicating with the players. Like, after you commit a foul, like letting that player know where they are on the line, where they are on their boiling point. And if they want to have a civil conversation with the ref, cool. If the captain wants to come over and talk, cool. End it there.
So technically, Bedoya got a yellow after the match for poor sportsmanship, according to the match report. Jack McGlynn got one at the end, another yellow for poor sportsmanship. So those were the 2 that were given to Philly. McGlynn's was still actually during play, technically at 90+5, and then Bedoya as captain got a yellow for poor sportsmanship, and technically listed in the 91st minute, but the match was over, and so that's why it was listed at 91 as opposed to 90+5. So, I Bart, as always, thank you for it, because like I said, I texted, and I'll break the fourth wall here for a second. Literally, with the discussion we were getting into this morning about what was been going on last night, and then game control and all these other elements, I texted Bart and I said, "I bet your ears are burning." And he's like, "Uh-oh." And so I was like, "Yeah, we're getting into it." So anytime that we can get the vaudeville cane and drag Bart off of his real world stage and bring him onto the show to kind of break things down, I'm thankful that you answered the bat signal this morning to kind of look at things, because there was a lot.
Do we want to attack the throw-in thing while I'm here?
Well, sure. If you got time, if you're not going to get in trouble with the real world, we can.
We'll do it. We'll do it. I'll open up this can of worms for a little bit.
Sure, and then we can readdress it the next time.
The first thing I'm gonna say is we have what I call the rule of inverse containment, which is just a fancy way to say that the lines that mark the outside of the field mean, as you know, the ball has to completely cross over the line, 100% of the ball over 100% of the line for the ball to be out of play.
Right.
Conversely, 100% of your body part has to cross over 100% of that line to be considered in the field of play, especially when we're talking about throw-ins.
Okay.
So, to that end, we're getting hung up on millimeters, centimeters, maybe, of a screen grab that has a glare, by the way, going through happen to be where the heel and the line maybe are or are not meeting.
You mean this screen grab right here?
Yeah. It's
there are cleaner ones though. Yeah,
it's very probable he was over the line.
Yeah,
very probable. However, I'm not going to. I think the issue more is that for VAR purposes, it's not truly reviewable. I think that this is a restart of play that should be able to be reviewed. However, I understand why it is not, because if we're just looking at foul throws, holy cow, do y'all understand how many foul throws get just
100 a day?
Thank you, Jarrett. Like, I mean, and I deal with this when I'm refereeing too, and it's just like the way I put it to the young referees too is you have to pick battles.
Yeah.
And if your battle is taking a throw in at the exact point where it went out of the field of play, if it's, oh, well, the ball didn't, completely go to the back of your neck and in front of your head. Like, we'd never play soccer. We never would. The throw in is just a method of restarting play. And yes, we need to be maybe a little more strict on it when it is being used as an attacking tool. But the other part is it's not like Harriel had a ball that went from the side of his head or one of the one-arm throw-ins a la Weston McKinney. He just happened to be maybe a centimeter over the line. Mm-hmm. And again, in the grand scheme of things, Atlanta United should clear it better. Atlanta United should mark better. If I can make one comment on the game itself, and I think I said this at the end, is that is a game that good teams have to win. And the team that was out there for Atlanta United at that point in time wasn't at that caliber because they let a couple of literally two moments get the best of them. And I forget who exactly has said it, but it's a lot of famous athletes have always said, you never want to be in a position where a referee's decision impacts your game.
Yeah.
And it's not like the ball went directly into the net. It's not like it hit multiple people before it went into the back of the net. Mm-hmm. And multiple people were involved after the throw-in was taken. So we can argue about this, and I think there are procedural issues to look at in terms of, hey, with VAR, isn't it really easy to look at it and say, oh, he was on the field of play? Because that is something that, from a black and white perspective, that can be judged as clear and obvious, right? Maybe this is something we need to look at. Same with like a restart with the ball rolling or not rolling, right? Those things are clear and obvious.
Right.
Maybe this is something that gets a rule change, but at the end of the day, we're hung up on something that is similar with Philly's goal, where it was like someone on Twitter was like, yeah, he's 9 3/4 inches offside.
Right. Yeah,
and it's like, okay, so we're talking about not even a foot versus not even an inch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's focus on the real issue, and that was, unfortunately, Atlanta United didn't clear a ball correctly defending a set piece.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Bart. Yes. To your point, Bart, and this was the kind of the point that you made yesterday specifically, is that with an incident that happened like that second goal for Philadelphia, it takes moments like that for proper reason.
Absolutely.
And looking at what needs to be corrected with implementation of VAR in this case. Like I said, it takes those kinds of incidents for us to sit there and go, okay, we missed something here. Let's take that incident and add it to the wording of what can be looked at, whether it's phase of play or what have you, the VAR implementation. Yeah. And that
because it's fair, right? Like, we're looking at it going, well, this is in the attacking phase of play. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. And it's a restart. What do you mean we can't look at it? And so I think those are legitimate questions to have.
Right.
But we're asking questions of, like, we're now asking about John Freeman, who didn't have his best day.
No.
And Catherine Nesbitt, who has refereed in World Cups and World Cup finals, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're asking them to work within the framework that they have. Mm-hmm. And by the way, she looked at it. Like, it's not like she was not paying attention, but I forget who I think it was Abe at the end of the broadcast. I was listening as I went home on Star 94. So shout out to that crew.
There you go.
It was like, yeah, she looked at it, but she's also looking at the offside line because it's clearly a set piece type of thing. And while you can't be offside directly from a throw in, you can be offside on the flick on that's about to happen.
Yeah.
And making sure no one else is doing other stupid things inside the box and making sure all these other things. So she checked the throw in and then immediately has to look up to make sure that where the throw in is about to go, stupid things aren't happening, because John and Jarrett, as you are apt to point out oftentimes, adult men do stupid things on the soccer field plenty of times. And, Catherine Nesbitt, as the lone woman out there, does have to keep them in check on occasion. So that's just what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Is she's got a lot, and she checks it, he's on the line.
She's multitasking. It's
Yeah.
not that she's not staring at just feet. She's staring at arms. She's looking at fouls. She's looking at what's going on in front of her.
Yeah.
She's not just focused on one thing. And so,
no. And that's also one of those things, John, is that as referees, we've tended to not focus so much on throw-ins because of that. As an AR, if I'm looking back down the line, because that's where a lot of throw-ins come, to make sure that every single piece of the part of this throw-in is taken correctly, well, I'm not doing my main duty, which is the offside line. Remember, that is the sole and main duty of the assistant referees, to keep up with that offside line, to make those calls. We're thankful she did, because she got one right for us.
Yeah.
So remember that yes, they're looking at that, but they also have to remind themselves of their main duty, which is the offside line. And in this case, again, though you cannot be offside on a throw-in, this particular type of throw-in, the offside is probably coming soon after the throw is happening.
Yeah.
And you need to be in position and aware of what's going on there.
Yeah, so that was the larger issue. Yes, we did discuss it yesterday, but I wanted to get into the larger discussion yesterday about, okay, this happened and it should be placed within the framework of review.
Yeah.
I wanted to push the story forward yesterday, in as much as folks wanted to discuss what happened in the match in and of itself and the points that we get into. I wanted to have the larger philosophical discussion about how do we advance the game with a moment like that happened yesterday, that we're looking at it with Zapruder and all this other kind of stuff.
And I 100% agree that this is something that I hope that the competition committee looks at to say, is this something we want to be reviewable?
Before you go, and I know that you might be in trouble. Jarrett, your last question, and then I've got a thought from Pars that we've got to get into.
No, and I'm actually running out the door.
Okay.
Bart's going to hold the door out, and we're both going to run out the door.
All right.
My favorite irony of all of this was people were getting, and trust me, I've had enough headaches over that stupid clip and that stupid screenshot. At this point, I'm done. I'm ready to burn it to the ground. My favorite irony of all this is people bitching about, well, we're just looking at screenshots of that, while at the same time we have been looking at screenshots of offside for a millennia now, it feels like.
Yeah.
Don't tell me we can freak out about one screenshot but not the other. It's what we do.
And we don't have a down the line view.
Right. Yeah, and exactly. We don't have a down the line view, which was my favorite thing of Curtin talking about clear and obvious. I'm like, dude, nothing about it's clear and obvious, man. It's not a down the line view.
Yeah.
VAR's going off of a weird view, or it's just hard to tell. And
it's you don't have the angle flush, you don't have semi-automated technology, you don't have Cyclops out there, so you're going to say what you're going to say. So there goes Jarrett. One last thing came from Par, and it's a positioning thing. Why can't the other AR not be on that end when it comes to positioning, I guess? Or I guess having two ARs backing each other up on the same side, I'm guessing is what Par.
Well, if you want to add an AR on each half, then sure. But the way it's positioned is the other AR is on the other side of the field on the direct opposite side for two reasons. One, because they're looking at the entire other sideline and goal line.
Right.
So, if they're on the same sideline, then you can't cover both sidelines. And then two, because the other team is offside as well, and you have to be on that side of the field. So, at this point, you're asking to add two more referees.
National Hockey League did it. National Hockey
NHL has done it, right? Listen. I am pro that, because I think that soccer is. Rugby has the same issue at times, but again, we've talked about how rugby is able to control things a little bit better.
Yeah.
But soccer specifically is the least. We have the least amount of power and control over this game because there's 3 of us out there to control 22 people plus coaches plus substitutes plus team officials. So we're talking
50.
You know what? You get an 18 to 23 player roster for match. That we're talking 50 plus people that we're controlling.
Correct.
And I don't know about you, John. I don't have kids, but I've tried to control a kid one time, and one child is a lot. Let alone 22 adult babies who, are acting a fool almost at any time.
The 17-to-1 ratio of attempted control is not really a good ratio. Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to bring you.
Yeah, telling you have 2 kids and stuff, and it's like if you have just 2 children.
Yes.
And even have 2 parents, it's tough.
Yep.
Let alone when you get outnumbered that way. So we're very outnumbered. So I would be fine with adding ARs on each half, And the problem is if you are adding, John, you see this in high school ball all the time. If you add 2 center referees.
Yes. Yeah.
Now we're talking about 2 different styles of calling a play, because unlike the NHL where you do have a lot of clear cut, this is thing. Soccer, we allow a lot of gray area.
Yeah. So. And the gray areas differ from individual to individual, and you have the egos that are attached. You also have the styles that are attached, the experience that's attached. And so the conflict of styles for center refs would be there. I know that you have overstayed your time.
A little bit.
Blame the show if any of your superiors sit there and have an issue and wonder why you were late for a conference call. As always, thank you for answering the Bart signal. Not just the bat signal, but it's the Bart signal.
Thank you, John, for sending it out.
No, hey, dude, it was stuff that we wanted to get into, and since your Monday at 10 has turned into a floating kind of a thing, when your ears burn, you can crash. So go back into the real world. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you all. And remember that at the end of the day, it's just a sport.
Well, we can't have that. No, athletics means far more than sport.
We can still hate on Philly, though. Love you, Rich. Bye.
Parting shot from Bart. At SoccerForUS POD at Bartimus Prime 19. And that was, like I said, answering the Bart signal. And I'm just going to call it that from now on. You end up with, and like I said, I wanted to get into stylistics, and I wanted to get into philosophy, and I wanted to try and get the refereeing perspective on control and calling a match, those kinds of things. Like I said, and Rich has been, like I said, Rich has been the point of the spear. He's been the sword and shield for Philly for the last 2 days, and this happens twice a year. And I wanted to, while addressing Monday and addressing Sunday on Monday and Monday on Tuesday, at the same time, I wanted to stipulate what Philly did right, especially last night. But at the same time, what I wanted to do was get into the philosophical element of this and try and understand where referees and ARs are coming from, where the rules of the game need to be changed, altered, augmented, what have you, and bring the discussion forward. Because, I mean, it's easy for us to lob shots and sit there. And I know that a lot of it is good-natured because of our listener base and our viewing base. And I know that we are all of one community, and there's ribbing, and there's the poking in the ribs, and the smacking on the back of the head, and it's good natured because of the history that we all have. But at the same time, I wanted to get into the elements that were exposed in these 2 matches and bring the discussion forward. So that was kind of why I wanted to discuss. Yes, there was game state to discuss, and yes, there are the points that continue to reinforce themselves when it comes to philosophy and how much Atlanta United fans disagree with Philadelphia Union fans about how they operate on the field. But I wanted to, with the moments that happened in Sunday's match and the moments that happened last night get into the larger discussion about center refs, rules of the game, engagement, those kinds of things. Because trust me, we will have plenty of time to discuss how much Philadelphia Union's style of play annoys 99.9% of you out there. And as I've said to Rich before, I understand that's the way that Philadelphia plays. I don't like it. I get it. That is what has made you successful. You do have coming up in short order another opportunity where you're going to have to try and get younger, because you can't run it back like this every single year. You cannot have the same personnel until they're 46 or 47 years old. So Philadelphia is coming to a crossroads. May not be at the end of this season, but I think it's coming soon. And it gets into the discussion that we had, and the deep dive is on the network. It's in the archive, where we had that, remember, if I could get my upper plate to work, since I haven't had a whole lot of caffeine yet. Remember the long discussion that we had about Philadelphia and the ownership group and how they position themselves and what they're focused on financially. There's going to be some time coming up real soon for Philadelphia to try to figure out what direction they want to go. Do they invest? And I mean in more than just infrastructure and beer gardens and things like that. Do they bring in players? Do they drop the eight-figure fees on more than just one guy, or seven-figure fees, high seven, and bringing folks in? How do you build? When this generation of Philadelphia Union players cycle themselves out for whatever reason, out of contract, going to other places, getting larger contracts, age, retirement, what have you, Philadelphia's got questions coming up. And how they handle themselves when those questions come up in bulk is going to be an interesting watch. Will they continue the style of play with this next cycle of individuals? We saw last night that, and Jarrett mentioned it, with Philadelphia Union II, you got folks that are that have, a fair piece of artistry attached to them when it comes to the future. Does Philly continue being this kind of an animal when the folks cycle through? But right now, this style of play fits who you are. You're successful to a point. Let's see what happens with Philly as they continue to get older and face questions about their roster build. But the current style of play, as I've said, not a fan. I get it. That's who you are. And like I said, we know how we all feel about it. But I wanted to, yesterday and today, it just so happened that it carried over into a second day's discussion because of what was going on. I wanted to talk about referees' perspectives, control, administration, rules, those kinds of things. And Bart answered his Bart signal. So thanks to Bart for doing that with us. Okay, so that's it for opening kickoff. That's it for opening kickoff that went a full hour. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's the QR code for those of you who are watching, however you are watching, either on the Twitch, the YouTubes, or on the 280-character app. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives. That's the QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay, hour number 2. We can talk about still whatever else is on your mind. If you want to bring in black helicopters and tinfoil hats, then go for it. We've got news from across the pond having to do with Tom Russo's favorite club on multiple fronts. I know that Tom is trying to block out what happened yesterday with his beloved Everton, and there's some off-the-field news involving them as well. We've got Open Cup to prepare for. We'll catch up with Roy Lassiter coming up in short order. Maddie caught up with him yesterday as Carolina Core gets ready for their next round matchup. We'll go through all the juice boxes there, and we're chasing after a bunch of different news and things, and so we'll let you know what else is going on in and around the planet. here for the second hour of the show. High school update. One match this afternoon. In rare cases, in the first round of the playoffs, you will find schools that will plan doubleheaders, because if they have two teams that have done well, they're going to want to combine them into one date so they don't have teams running around all over the place. And it's like, okay, we're going to turn the lights on, and then we're going to turn the lights off. Then we're going to turn the lights on and turn the lights off on back-to-back days. So that's part of the detail. Now, today, 5 o'clock, on the network, a little before 5. We'll be back at Decatur. Go to our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. I will have the Ware County Decatur girls match. Our friends from Waycross making the trip, coming north. So Ware County and Decatur, a little before 5, just the one match today, because like I said, it is one match, and they've split the classes up. So half the classes are on Tuesday, the other half are Thursday. You've got Wednesday on the boys and Friday on the boys. So 5 o'clock today, a little before, it is Ware County and Decatur. We're heading back to Decatur. Tomorrow, doubleheader on the network. Remember one of those cases where the home team got to combine. We'll be at Hillgrove High School in Powder Springs, which is out in the western sections of the city for a doubleheader. It's a 6 and an 8 start, scores permitting. So we'll be on a little before 6 and a little before 8 if things are handled in regulation. And we will be out at Hillgrove on Wednesday. When we know Thursday, we'll let you know Thursday. We have a game in mind, and we're trying to secure that because, once again, you're hopping into discussions with athletic directors pretty much on the fly, and it's like, hey, can we come out and do the match? So Tuesday, Ware County, Decatur, 5 o'clock. Tomorrow, 6 and 8, doubleheader at Hillgrove on our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. And we'll catch up with the Hillgrove Hawks. And so we've got a single game in mind on Thursday and a single game in mind on Friday. So that's where we are with all of our activities. Remember, Friday, I will have the match on Friday at the same time at Reverb by Hard Rock. It is our pre-FC Cincinnati get-together. So if you're in town, if you're visiting from out of town, or if you're in town and you're downtown, you get to go hang out at Reverb by Hard Rock up on the rooftop, and it'll be the first chance for us to do that this year. So Jason, Maddie, Cast of Thousands, and all of you get to be there at the rooftop bar for our pre-FC Cincinnati kickoff on SDH, and we'll be up there for that. And thanks to everybody at Reverb by Hard Rock, Keith Sumter and everybody there, great sponsors here with SDH. So game plan, game today, doubleheader tomorrow night, game on Thursday. Friday, we're in two places at once. Game on the air right there on the Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, plus being at Reverb by Hard Rock simultaneously on Friday. And then obviously Saturday, back on 92.9 The Game, it is Atlanta United and FC Cincinnati, and some old friends get to come and visit. So we'll catch up with them. All right, so that's the plan for the near future when it comes to everything going on the planet. So now, no, Del, I did not see the AFC Wimbledon Princess Diana jersey. You're going to have to send me the link to that. So that's going to be very cool. All right, now, time to shout out everybody. And so morning, Del, morning, Alex, morning, Derek, morning, Rich. Now, like I said, Rich, because Rich has been a part of the SDH family for as long as he have. He comes in with the sword and the shield, and he's ready. These two match days are now 4 match days out of the year when it comes to the singles and the 2's. Morning, David. Morning, 4Card. And let's see. Discussing tailgating and things like that. Dell mentions, the back and forth, and he says that's the one thing he loves about USL Championship. We have each other team's fans. I mean, Rich, you've got the other team's fans at the tailgate. Last season, Rich came by and was welcomed with open arms. He came down for the match last year, and like I said, Rich, I've got your scarf right over there. It is right over there. And it is here in the office, so it does exist. And so Rich says, I'm not going to lie, we kind of know it annoys you guys, so it is a little bit of needling. If no one starts trouble, it's fine. That's how it goes. So, I mean, it's Alex, and getting into the ideas of the reffing down here discussion. Alex, I want a rule where every single player who crowds the ref and isn't the captain is given a yellow, no first warning, first minute or last. Even if it's a second yellow, Alex doesn't care. It'll stop the shenanigans. And that was another element of what we saw, on the weekend. And we see it more than just on the weekend. We see it a lot in Major League Soccer. And Alex, to your point, I think that if you had center refs that were not afraid to sit there and go, bro, are you wearing the armband? You sit there and the center ref looks down and he goes, are you wearing a captain's armband? He looks down and the center ref doesn't see one. Then it's like, all right, you're out of here, or bang, choice is yours. And so, that might have been another part of the discussion with Bart is yellow cards, mass confrontation, all those kinds of things. I think that legitimately you need to have center refs in Major League Soccer. And like I said, yes, we are using recency when it comes to our example, but it's something that we see a whole lot. We see individuals not wearing an armband decide basically that they're going to draft off of the captain and try to get their 2 cents in when they don't need to be there. There was look, you get fined for mass confrontation policy for violations of it. Would not be surprised if during the week you ended up with word from the league office that the folks in Chester ended up with an envelope from FedEx expressing displeasure about mass confrontation, and they're going to get fined, $25,000 or whatever it is for the first infraction of mass confrontation. But no, I think that what you need to have is a center ref who's not afraid to look down, see that multiple folks are not wearing a captain's armband, sit there and say, look, I can have a conversation with this guy. Rest of you either go or you're getting yellows down the line. I think it will be interesting to see if it does quell the idea of mass confrontation. I think it will be interesting if it does. The first guy that does that, then we take that example going forward and see if it does, in fact, calm all that stuff down. So we'll see. And Alex and Rich getting through the discussion. Well, and Dell asks, does it ever help when they crowd the referee? Ever? That in and of itself is another question. Do you, in your mind, if it is a part of your team DNA, and I would say, Dell, earlier in a match, I would say, yeah, it does. Because I think what it presents is the opportunity to wear down a center ref. Does it ever help when they crowd the referee? Ever. I think if you do it early in a match, it's part of your on-field DNA, and it's part of who you are and what you do. The earlier you do it, the more opportunities you have to sit there and confront a referee, and then you wear him down. It's another element of wearing down a referee to where late in a match, if there is one of those 50-50s, center ref may not call it because of all of the activity. If you're tired of getting yelled at, think about it in the real world. Think about it doing other things. If you're tired of getting yelled at, next time somebody comes over and yells at you, you're just going to kind of be like, screw this. You don't want to deal with it. So what do you deal by not dealing with it? You don't address it. So no, if it is a part of your collective DNA and it is done on purpose to wear down an official, regardless of sport, regardless of team we're talking about here, you get in a ref's face early and chirp. You continue to do it. There's more of you that come and do it, and it's done consistently. Late in the game, when there is a moment when you can sit there and flip a switch a little bit, it's like, okay, let's go back over. Let's be who we are. Let's go over in a group. And we've done it before. You run the opportunity to wear down a center ref where they're not going to want to call everything because they don't want to have to deal with you and your ish. And what it also does is it sets a bar and a reminder for all of the other officials in whatever sport we're talking about. Okay, this is what's going to happen. And you can be ready for it all you want. But if folks wander in and it is a part of your DNA and you do this, folks know it's coming, but they can't stop it. And the only thing that can stop it, I think, is early administration of cards. To your point, Alex, I think that you've got to have a center ref in Major League Soccer, going back to our current example. And believe me, there are other clubs that do mass confrontation. I'm not just talking about Philly. If you have a center ref that will sit there and go, okay, 8th minute, there's the tough foul, and it's egregious. Doesn't matter who it is. Somebody gets stuck in a tackle and it's a card. It is card worthy. Then you're going to call it. You're going to call a free kick from that spot. And, 4 or 5 dudes come around, including the captain. If they don't back up, if you don't see the guy go like this and, give the wave off and they still hang around, other than the captain, and you make the point, look, I can talk to this guy. Rest of you, you got a choice. You hang around or you get carded. Yeah, it changes the tenor of the game, but if it's early enough, then, you get what you pay for. You get what you deserve in that case. So I think, does it ever help when they crowd the referee? Yes. Because it sets that example in the referee's brain that they're going to be on me all match, and you'll get to a point where you're tired of dealing with it. And when you're tired of dealing with it, you keep the card in your pocket. You keep the whistle, around your neck. That's part of what that does. You see it a lot in competitions. You see it in Champions League. You see it in CONCACAF. Mass confrontation in CONCACAF, I think, is part of the DNA of the tournament. Triple C, you see it all the time. Liga MX, you see it all the time. It's just how they're wired. But here in Major League Soccer, more often than not, when teams confront en masse, they're trying to wear the center ref down. And it takes an individual to sit there and go, okay, that's it. And you got to set that example early in a match to where you have control of the situation, to where you don't lose it late. John Freeman lost control in the 40th minute. So that other 50 minutes, I think Philadelphia knew, okay, we got it. We can continue to push the envelope. Other teams, when you're in a mass confrontation situation, light bulb goes off. All right, cool. We know where the limit is. So that's what you're staring at here with any club in any sport. But to Alex's point, you've got to have a center ref who is strong enough in their convictions to sit there and go, look, bang, bang, bang. But does it ever help? Yes. I think it does. So there you go. And to Rich's point, yeah, don't leave it in the hands of the judges. Make sure that you have enough of a margin and enough of an effort to where it's not in that kind of a situation. Tom, 100% agree on the yellows in the conversation with Alex. That and all the grabbing, clutching, arm wrapping on corners, 2 things that bug the ever-loving hell out of him. And parse to your point about not having the AR, having 2 ARs on the same side, I think we're getting to that point, and I'm waiting for IFAB to address it, much like we talked about in the National Hockey League with Bart. National Hockey League had to add a second ref because of the speed of the game and the development of the athlete. And I think we're getting to that point in the sport of soccer. I think we've been there for a while, but the key is now you probably need to add another set of ARs. You need to have an AR handle a half, and that's it. 2 ARs on each side. You get to the 4th, and that's as far as you go. Or maybe it just wanders through to where it's like you're, maybe it's not just a 50-50, but you're there for support and you wander down into the attacking half each time. But I think we're to that point where we need more ARs. Fire up more wireless microphones and IFBs and earpieces, because I think we're to that point. How long will it take for IFAB and other, what I'd really like? MLS Next Pro has been a testing ground for ideas. Injuries, substitutions, those kinds of things. Here's what I'd like as we've workshopped this through this morning. MLS Next Pro, on a couple of occasions, maybe for the playoffs or regular season, something that you could sit there and have a good roundabout base of information. Somewhere in the MLS Next Pro schedule, you introduce 2 new ARs. So you've got 2 on each side. You've got 2 ARs on each side, plus your center ref. I know with technology, you've got to add 2 more headsets and more channels and things like that. But I think this is where it's done. I think what you do is you introduce 2 new ARs in MLS Next Pro, because I think that, once again, the discussion about adding a second ref, you get the conflict of styles, and then you have the refs, combating each other as to what they constitute a particular play to be. I think the solution is to add 2 more ARs, 1 on each side. MLS Next Pro needs to do that, to test it out and see if you end up with reinforcements of calls or if you end up with differing percentages of what you're talking about on a daily basis if you're an AR. See what the foul numbers are and roll from there. That's my thought. So 2 new ARs in MLS Next Pro, that's your Petri dish. That's my thought. Wiley, going back to the match, frustrated with Atlanta's finishing on Sunday, encouraged by Cobb and company, knocking around some Philly players. Watch that LGP tape for inspiration. Yeah, I'm really loving Noah Cobb. But like I said, we've had Noah Cobb in our spot shadow since he was 15, playing for Atlanta United too. Not afraid to play against dudes like Cameron Lancaster and the guys from Lou City who are twice his age. Noah might have just been able to start driving, but he was starting up against dudes that were twice his age, 30-year-old plus players in USL Championship at the time. Not intimidated by it. Love what I'm seeing from Noah Cobb. And his numbers and Luis Abram's numbers on the weekend, great at the back. 6 clearances for Luis Abram. That still sticks with me. But, yeah, Noah Cobb, Efren Morales behind him. You've got Matthew Edwards with Atlanta United too. You've got Aiden Torres with Atlanta United too. But 3 weeks off, I think it got to him. And Philadelphia Union II, quality, absolute quality. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Atlanta United II next time around. Tom says he wants a second center before more ARs. Like I said, I think that the clash of styles and egos and conversations might make that more of a combative relationship. That's why I'm looking for more ARs. But like I said, they're not like against each other in the run of play. They're not like standing over each other's shoulders. I think that there's some give and take. Like the further down the line the near side AR goes, that's when the second AR comes in from behind and is closer to the middle third, those kinds of things. And so it's almost like a pendulum. It's like, okay, so this guy slides, I slide with him, so that way you end up covering 100% of what's going on. And Derek, yes. Derek says referees are constantly hurting cats. Dell says hurting cats is easier. Not necessarily wrong. Yeah, that's why we only have one animal here at Office HD. That's why we only have the one. So Dell doing the public service and showing me the link to the AFC Wimbledon. The Black Sheep. Okay. The Black Sheep. Okay. Got it. Okay. That's very, see, man, I'm going to have to, I get that. I wonder if they're going to, put that on sale or if there are any left, basically. So we'll see. All right. So Dell with another question. Can you turn a referee against you by doing that, or can you get a referee on your side if you don't give him or her crap? That's another Bart question, but I would imagine, I think that stylistically, what is it? You get more flies with honey than vinegar. I think that if you are, if you're not the captain and you're asking a question genuinely, I think the captain can use whatever tone, but of course you don't want to sit there and use a confronting kind of a tone. Well, that, like you're turning behind and talking to Angel Hernandez or something. Well, that call sucked. No, I mean, if I think that a center ref is probably a little bit more forgiving / understanding about the situation. If you're not gesticulating wildly and sitting there and dropping F-bombs, it's like, no. Or if you walk up to him and go, okay, so what I was thinking was X, But I don't think that there's going to be enough of a calming of the emotion in the first place to sit there and make it to where you're having a civil discussion. So who knows? But that's what you're looking at. Okay, so when did this go? When did this drop? Actually, 25 minutes ago. Wow, shows you how far we've gone. All right, so the Scottish Premiership post-split fixtures and dates have been revealed, and I think that Jarrett is probably chasing down these as we go. So St. Mirren Rangers Celtics to Dundee. That is on May the 11th. Action kicking off on April 27. Kilmarnock Hearts in the top 6. Aberdeen take on Motherwell. Livingston and Ross County. St. Johnstone and Hibs. So that's what so April 28th, you got a double. St. Mirren Rangers, as everything continues to just launch forward as I'm trying to read as we go. Yeah, I mean, Aberdeen right now, 35 points. I mean, they got some work to do. But yeah, Aberdeen in the lower half. Key matches in the bottom 6. Aberdeen, who have named Elfsborg's Jimmy Thielen as their new manager for next season. They are hoping to not be dragged into the relegation battle. They've got home matches against Motherwell and St. Johnstone before visiting Hibs the week after, ending their season against the bottom 2. Livingston visits and then a trip to Ross County, but we saw what Ross County did after the fact. So, Aberdeen right now, for those of us that have been following, Aberdeen's got some work to do when it comes to getting out of the bottom 6. So they got 5 points to make up and a handful of matches to do it. So, 35 points. They got to climb 2 other folks and get into Dundee's slot, which is 5 points ahead of them. So, keep an eye on Aberdeen because that could turn into some serious stuff. But Jimmy Thielen from Elfsborg. There you go. Forget DNA. Atlanta United does it too. It's become acceptable all around the world and needs to be completely eliminated from the game. So that's a bad example in the stands too. Yeah, and Alex, I see your point there. With if your team acts a certain way, then as a fan of your team, then you feel compelled to act similarly. No, I completely understand that. Alex says the line needs to be reset. I promise that if you start next season with that directive, first 2 games it happens in, it's enforced. You'll have 0 instances in that league by the end of the season. I'd love to see it, just to see what happens. Pars, question is, if a foul is committed on the opposite side of the field and your captain is the goalie, then what? Will refs then have to wait to talk to the captain? Well, Pars, I think more often than not, the captain, if he is the goalie. We've seen Brad run like hell to get into the discussion in the middle third. So I don't think your keeper as captain is going to stay inside the 18 in a situation like that. That they're going to, if it's that important and that egregious from the spot of the keeper inside the 18, they're going to run up and have a discussion. They are. So it will not be just left to the imagination as to what the captain of the team of the aggrieved is thinking. That keeper's going to run up there. Alex says the price is too high. David, maybe put in a restart clock like football play clock. If they're not done or ready to go, they lose the kicker if defending gets cards if it's more than 60 seconds. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the latter. I don't think you could necessarily flip a possession or something like that. I think that if you're defending, you probably are going to it's like you get X amount of time. It's like you get a shot clock to complain. I was going to use a different word and to turn it into that kind of a clock, the complaint clock. But I was going to use a shorter word. Give them, you let them say their piece, get a couple of, don't turn it into a 5-paragraph essay. You get a 24-second complaint clock or something like that in the head of the official. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, you get a complaint clock. That wouldn't be too bad. Once again, coming up before the show, we're going to go over Open Cup. We'll catch up. Maddie had a chance to catch up with Roy Lassiter, the head coach of Carolina Core, as they get ready for their matchup in Who's What's It's Open Cup. So we'll see what happens with Maddie and Roy Lassiter coming up in short order once it loads, and we'll see what the conversation was like. It was about 5 minutes. Maddie caught up with Coach as they're getting ready for stuff. Okay, hour number 2 is rolling along. Wow. And I think that this is the cool part of having these philosophical discussions is that we end up with Dell's wondering about any additional info about Jack Collison. Have not heard anything other than Jack loving his time there and being completely and totally complimentary to everyone there in Huntsville. So nothing else has come out about Jack Collison and leaving the folks at Hunt City. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if there's anything else that comes as a part of that discussion. News of the day, and for it we will go. We'll start overseas and work our way over. Yesterday, and I know that this is where Tom likes to put his. He's going to have to put his hands over his ears or unplug or something. Yesterday, Cole Palmer scored 4, and they beat Everton. It was over after 30 minutes, honestly, and it was not pretty unless you had Cole Palmer on your fantasy team. And it was 6-0 final. Cole Palmer had the natural hat trick in 16 minutes. Nico Jackson scored in the 44th. Palmer scored again to make it 5-0. And then Alfie Gilchrist, who was called off the bench. I think Alfie just had his 14th birthday. I'm kidding, but it's close. Alfie Gilchrist scores late substitution, scores in the 90th minute, 6-0 final. But you still have a situation at Chelsea where you got players chasing after each other on a PK. Cole Palmer, Nico Jackson, Conor Gallagher, who's taking it? And folks were hot. Mauricio Pochettino, rightfully so. And this is why you make Cole Palmer the taker of your PKs. Right now, he's the guy on the hot streak. I think it's 20 goals in all comps for Cole Palmer. That's why you make Cole Palmer your dude. So there's no discussion, and so you don't have players acting like, spoiled children out there. Mine, I want my kick. No, I want my kick, So Pochettino, Noni Madueke and Nico Jackson were the two players that were having the elevated vocal discussion about taking the PK. And they tried to take Cole Palmer's penalty off of Cole Palmer. So Jackson argues with Noni Madueke, who had initially taken the ball, shoved Cole Palmer after Conor Gallagher, who was wearing the captain's armband, and Thiago Silva tried to come in and separate everybody. Palmer took the ball, scored the penalty, and it was his 4th. But Pochettino described his players as being kids. That was the words he used. Pochettino says it's a shame, and apparently Jackson and Caicedo continued to argue after the final whistle. Pochettino, it's a shame. I told the players in the dressing room we can't behave in this way. I told them this is the last time I will accept this type of behavior. They're all involved in this situation. Next time, they're all out. This is not a joke. It's impossible after a performance like this to see this type of behavior. If we want to be a great team fighting for big things, we need to change and think more in a collective way. I made clear to them, and now through the media, and I say to our fans and to everyone, Cole Palmer is the penalty taker. And it's now his choice if he wants to give the ball to another player, but not in this way. They are not experienced players that really know what they're doing. They are young. They are kids. They need to experience some of the situations to learn. We are like in a school. We need to show that they were wrong. Now they need to learn. If they don't learn, yes, we will take some decisions. Now it's about learning, using this experience to move on. Cole Palmer, when he's asked about it, he downplayed it. But you end up with Sean Dyche, who was mad at his team's performance, giving up 6. Miles off the intent and desire to win a match. You have to give strength, put a tackle in. I thought we were mildly better in the second half, but the first half, miles off. Miles off. Yeah, Dell, if I was Pochettino, I would be so embarrassed. And I think he was. And he was hot about it, too. So, yeah, Cole Palmer got 4. Natural hat trick, PK. Chelsea beats Everton 6-0. And so after that, you had a word about Everton this morning that came out. Ben Rumsby, and once again, when Ben Rumsby is a part of a byline for the Telegraph, you got to pay attention. So here is the latest on Everton and 777. Rumsby this morning says the takeover by 777 now has a last gasp extension. His words, a last gasp extension over the repayment of the £160 million loan that is supposed to calm the fears about the club being put into administration. So the deadline, Monday last night, so 10 and a half hours ago as we're talking, 5 o'clock in the morning in London this morning. Deal's been struck over money owed to MSP Capital and businessman Andy Bell and George Downing. The length of the extension granted was said to be a question of weeks, not months, since 777 is still trying to complete their purchase of Everton toward the end of the season. Talks with MSP were said to have been led by current owner Farhad Moshiri, because his 94% is what is trying to be picked up by 777. Loan is said to be secured against 51% of his stake. So Moshiri owns 94% of Everton. The loan of the £160 million has majority ownership in Everton, the security against the loan. If I'm interpreting that correctly. So, majority ownership of Everton against the security of the £160 million loan that 777 is trying to figure out how to repay so they can, in turn, become the new owners of Everton. So, you could have a situation, pennies on the dollar. If 160, so literally, if you're looking at ownership secured at 160 million at 51%, you're talking about a product that has an apparent math value of maybe 300 million pounds in paper, not like in actual currency or anything. Secured against 51% of the current owner's 94% stake. This is some leveraged stuff, man. This is leveraged stuff. And if one piece goes wrong, you could end up with MSP Capital, Andy Bell, and George Downing, in theory, owning 51% of Everton. Do they even want it? Would they, in turn, flip it? Reports that those owed money were also eyeing a share of the new £500 million stadium in lieu of repayment. So you've got dudes who are leveraging against a majority percentage of Farhad Moshiri's ownership percentage, plus the idea of, no, we won't take it out in franchise value, but hey, you're building this nice, shiny stadium. What if we got equity in that instead? All of this puts at risk the takeover by 777, according to Rumsby. 777, which is also now owed more than $160 million in loans, paid to prop up the club after they agreed to buy out Moshiri for £500 million. You get that funding pulled to 777 as they're trying to sit there and come up with some kind of a way to make it happen. That gets Everton financially through the end of the month. Someone else would have to step up to make sure that Everton doesn't go into administration, doesn't get another 9-point deduction And that would be 17 total points deducted in a year if the financing isn't agreed to with 777. If 777 isn't approved by the Premier League as a fit owner, although I don't know by how these days they would be considered as passing the owner's test. With all of this discussion, how they would be considered a fit owner, don't know how that would happen. Conflicting views over the prospect of insolvency. One source told Rumsby Moshiri's committed to preventing the doomsday scenario either by resuming bankrolling the club himself or finding another buyer. Moshiri has ties, if I'm not mistaken, to Russian oligarchs. I don't know how that would fly. Another source to Rumsby said that administration is a very real possibility. 3 or 4 main scenarios. First one's an extension granted with a price attached. Additional payment to MSP, could be equity, could be more favorable loan terms. I don't see that happening. And if it isn't granted, MSP takes the equity and either tries to line up somebody else as a buyer. Third scenario is probably administration. Everton already facing a wait until the season ends before any takeover by 777. And they're scrambling to come up with the 9 figures to fund the purchase. And that's why I say, with the questions of 777 being looked at with some of their subsidiaries in Utah and in the Bahamas, not able to get interest, not able to get loans unless the interest rate is astronomical, bordering 40%. Now they're to the point where they're still scrambling to raise funds, and now they've asked for another extension on this $160 million. How they pass the owner's test, I have no idea. 7 months we're at right now. The conditions include it repays the $160 million owed by Everton, deposits $60 million into an escrow account for use by the club, converts loans into equity, proves that it has access to sufficient funding to complete the construction at Bramley Moore Dock. Apparently, they've approached a significant number of lenders to help bankroll the purchase, including Blue Owl Capital, a U.S.-based private credit provider. Everton's appeal over their latest deduction is going to be heard on an expedited basis. And remember, the Premier League season ends May the 18th. So you've got to have everybody in line for the championship season and for the next Premier League season in short order. So if Everton finishes in the bottom 3, you could end up with a discussion and an independent panel trying to determine whether or not Everton is going to be in the championship or whether Everton is going to be able to stay in the Premier League if they avoid relegation because of what's going on the field. So Everton is coming at it from a bunch of different angles here right now. And we've got to keep an eye on that as one of the big storylines, sadly, off the field. Nottingham Forest is going to have apparently their answers for their appeal early next week. So you got to hang on to that. So literally you could have appeals processes with Forest and with Everton deciding what is going on with their futures, regardless of what happens on the field of play. You could have independent panels that are breaking down what's going on with clubs and whether or not they're going to stay afloat and whether or not they're going to be a part of the discussion in the Premier League in 2024-25. Frank Lampard has ruled himself out of running for the Canada job. This was a shocker when this went down. Apparently, Frank Lampard held talks with the national team, decided the job did not represent the right opportunity. He was made a surprise candidate for the post, but after the first round of talks, he was kind of like, nah. I could see why, frankly, with what's going on with Canada soccer financially right now. I wouldn't want to be a part of that. Now things are currently being handled with all of the CSB, the Canada Soccer Business discussion that we've had in the past. Yeah, if I was Frank Lampard, that was the right decision. Staying as far away from that as possible. Obviously, we'll get into what else is going on today, what to watch, where to watch it, where to go, all these kinds of things. We'll get into that coming up in short order. The deals, and speaking of Chelsea, going from Frank Lampard, the Chelsea deals, remember we talked about the Chelsea deals, and once again, this is Martin Ziegler. So Martin Ziegler at the times when he's got a byline, you don't want him knocking on your door. But remember we talked about where Chelsea sold 2 hotels to a subsidiary of themselves to try to lower their profit and loss numbers. Shockingly, this deal for $76.5 million has now got scrutiny from the Premier League. They've yet to approve the value of the sale, meaning the Premier League. The hotels deal was a loophole, according to Ziegler, that appeared to have helped Chelsea avoid breaching PSR, profit and sustainability rules. However, the 22-23 account signed off in December, now filed, stated the deal had not yet been assessed to be of fair market value, and that the conclusion may result in a material change to the gain recognized in the financial statements. That's the word from the actual document. Chelsea's annual loss reported at just under £90 million for 22-23, but it would have been $166.4 million without the hotels deal. Club reported another £30.6 million as other operating income, in quotation marks, including the recharging of £17 million in litigation costs to their holding company. Tell you what, we're going to bill you twice. And a £12.5 million settlement fee, although no one knows what that's for. And so once again, Chelsea and Bully Clear Lake go under the microscope. Because remember, you can only lose £105 million in a 3-year period. Otherwise, you're in violation of PSR. We've mentioned Newcastle in the past. Newcastle, after one season, is already 70% there. They've got some work to do to make sure that in the next 2 seasons, they come out as break even or turn a profit. And that's why you're seeing Adara Bioyo and Miguel Almiron and other folks on the selling block so they can try and work those numbers out. But Newcastle's got to be careful in the next 2 years. Chelsea apparently has to be careful yesterday. The Premier League rules the fair market value was lower than £76.5 million on the 2 hotels. That could be a problem when it comes to compliance. Ziegler talked to other representatives and execs at other clubs. They were shocked that the actual selling of the hotel to a fellow company inside your umbrella was actually allowed. It's like, yeah, we're going to sell it. I'm going to sell it to my sister. Everybody thought that was cool. Inside Bowley Clear Lake, other clubs were like, really? Okay, sure. Account signed off on just before Christmas in 23. 6 months after the 2 hotels and their car park were transferred to Blueco 22 Properties Limited. Sure. Okay, fine. Subsidiaries, they're both subsidiaries of the Chelsea holding company, Blueco 22, with Bowley, Bedat Iqbali, and Jonathan Goldstein. So keep an eye on Chelsea's figures, just to add to the fun. Alex reminds us about Newcastle with the deals with Adidas and Selah, going to help out a lot because neither of those have been formed into the numbers. So we'll keep, obviously. But right now, you got folks that want to come in, spend an ish load of money, and you are really dancing. You are really dancing. And it's Everton, it is Forest, it is Chelsea, Newcastle with Alex's caveat, and obviously everyone is still also staring at Manchester City and their 115 violations, but we have not gotten there as of yet. And I still think that the folks who own Manchester City, QSI, will be more than happy to sit there and think about billable hours and not worry about it. They're just going to continue to try and kick the can down the road. News from around Werder Bremen. This happened this morning. Naby Keita suspended and fined by Werder Bremen after walking out of the Bayer Leverkusen game. Head of football says, we won't tolerate Naby's behavior. The club say that he went home after being left out of the team. Suspended him for the rest of the season, imposed a substantial fine, after he walked out of the match against Leverkusen. Didn't feature. Club said he'd chosen not to travel to the ground with the team, decided to go home instead after discovering he was not in the starting lineup. Leverkusen, obviously, with the win, they clinched their title, left Werder 5 points clear of the bottom three with a handful of matches to go. Signed as a free agent on a 3-year deal last summer after the expiry of his contract at Anfield. All right, let's get into the activity that is going on this weekend. Or this weekend. We're not even to the weekend yet. It is a conversation that Maddie and the head coach of Carolina Coy, Roy Lassiter, had. Carolina Coy in Open Cup, and it is a conversation that the two of them had. It's about 5 minutes, and it gets everybody ready for Open Cup. We'll get into the Open Cup matchups and everything else that's going on today. Here's Maddie and Roy Lassiter discussing Open Cup and what's going on with Coy right now in MLS Next Pro.
Alrighty, so Coach Lassiter, first of all, congratulations on the huge victory against Vermont Green FC in Open Cup. That match was a little bit different and weird because Vermont went up in the 28th minute to a penalty, and then you guys came back in the second half for that. What was your message to your team during halftime to let them build up and get the success that they did?
Yeah, first of all, halftime is usually a powerful moment, and you have to continue to inspire your team as well as provide solutions to what needs to be worked out on the field. But my thing was to just keep going, keep driving, keep going. They were playing well. They were playing really well, having more opportunities, more set pieces. And so we were having a lot of the ball. We saw a problem that was out there on the first half. During the first 10 minutes, we solved that problem. So it started to make a little bit more difficult for Vermont. But they had their moments, too, as well. They had their moments to take an even greater lead or to take advantage. And they didn't. And we had to make a few changes, and we did. And all of a sudden, again, persevering. The PK was unfortunate. Kobe has learned from that and how we approach the player, especially in that vital box there. And so we just kept on plugging away, and the goal came for us.
Absolutely. And I remember talking to y'all after the Atlanta United II match, and you guys actually had a big road trip because you went from there then to New England. You weren't home for a little bit. You were kind of going back and forth because you played New England, then you played this match. How was that, balancing that and getting your players motivated to go into that match because you guys were away from home? And that's always difficult to do.
Yeah, I think because in New England, we played very well. We were just unfortunate. It was just unfortunate that we didn't, but we played very, very well. Our level of maturity got better. Our spacing between the lines got better. We matured in terms of our principles of taking care of the ball, knowing what to do in transition. I think we just got better. It was just really, really unfortunate. We were not on in terms of finishing. And so we were able to finish one, but we had other opportunities to finish other occasions. But so I was not displeased with them. Yes, there were a few things that we needed to get better, small details, which we all know small details can lose you the game if you're not careful. And so we took that to Vermont, and quickly we had to get over it, right? We had to get over that loss, and knowing that we should have done better, knowing that we should have gotten a tie at the least out of the Revolution. And we took that to heart in Vermont. We studied Vermont. We studied them. We watched the game. We broke it down. We kept studying them and found our solutions on what we wanted to do, had a game plan, and we were going to go after it. So I think our ability to commit to getting the ball, commit to running for each other, commit to sacrificing our body, commit to making runs, difficult, dangerous runs. I think that's what was the turning point for our players to recognize that they must possess if they want to get to that next level.
Absolutely. And looking ahead to this Open Cup round 3 matchup against North Carolina FC, how has it been scouting them this week? They're coming off of a tie between Birmingham Legion. What has it been like kind of preparing up to this matchup? And also you guys are away from home once again. So how are you balancing that as well? going back in, you get to come home for a little bit, but now you got to go back on the road and face off against North Carolina FC, and what supposedly could be a little bit of this like rivalry, being, you know, both of y'all in the same area. So how has that been building up to this match?
Well, first of all, there's no excuse for us just playing on the road. We've been in that situation before. If we can handle Vermont in the snow, in the cold weather, and against their great crowd that they had, we can probably handle just about anything. And so we're going to go there ready. We are prepared. We have scouted them. We have watched them. We continue to watch them in all aspects. They play a little bit different at home than what they do when they're away. And so we will be prepared for that as well. We have done a lot of film on them, not just us as a coaching staff, but as the team as well. We've broken them down in their deficiencies and their good tendencies. And so we feel that we are prepared to compete, to battle, and to win on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Alrighty, well, that's all the questions I got for you, Coach. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time, and good luck on Wednesday. I know I'm excited to get to watch this round of the Open Cup. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Roy Lassiter, head coach of Carolina Core, hanging out with Maddie Cruz on the 1's and 2's. And so that is one of 11 matches on Wednesday in Open Cup. You've got 5 today. Charlotte Independence, Rhode Island FC, and 3 of them are at 7 o'clock. So if you are so inclined, you can go to ussoccer.com and you can watch on their linked throughs and all their YouTube channels and such. 3 at 7 o'clock. Charlotte is hosting Rhode Island FC. So maybe we can catch up with Michael Parkhurst. I think it's his turn on Friday, and we'll find out about Open Cup. At Lynn Family, it is Greenville Triumph and Lou City. 7 o'clock also, it is Michigan Stars and Detroit City FC at Keyworth in Hamtramck. That should be a great environment. 9 o'clock, Lubbock Matadors with Hitch and his family. They get to go to Rio Rancho High School in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and take on New Mexico United. So it is like a little version of the Lab. And then 10:30 tonight, it is El Farolito, our favorite Mexican restaurant in the Bay Area. They travel to take on Roots at CSU East Bay in Hayward. That is at 10:30 tonight. Once again, you can go to ussoccer.com and you can watch the third round live. 5 today, 11 tomorrow. Juice boxes on the matchups tonight. Rhode Island is even money plus 100 on the road at Charlotte Independence to win in 90 minutes. Charlotte Independence, by the way, and the 90-minute draw, both hanging around plus 240. Detroit is a big favorite. Detroit City hosting Michigan Stars, almost at a minus 295 to win in 90 minutes. Michigan Stars is a plus 757 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, to take the win tonight in regulation. Your draw, 90-minute draw, is a plus 340. Lou City favored with Greenville Triumph coming to town at a minus 185 at Lynn Family. No real surprise there. 90-minute draw is a plus 309. And your Greenville Triumph win in 90 minutes is a plus 411. Once again, thanks to our friends at Odds Portal for giving us the rundown of everything there and getting you prepped for tonight. Once again, go to ussoccer.com is a good starting point, and then you can catch up wherever you wish to link and follow the action here in the Open Cup. What's on today, where to watch it, and how long you should. Remember, you end up with a Champions League today, and it is the backup matchups. And so it's going to be a very, very busy afternoon, and some of it's even going to be on big CBS. So you end up with you end up with activity that you can watch leading into your local news. It'll be a fun day. So matchups at 3 o'clock, both of them. Barcelona hosting PSG, and this is to win in 90 minutes. This is not to win the two legs. Barcelona favored at home against PSG at a plus 116. 90-minute draws a plus 305, and PSG is just north of plus 200. Dortmund at home against Atletico Madrid is a plus 120. Your draws a plus 275. Atletico Madrid is a plus 218. That is today in Champions League. What to watch? Barca and PSG is on big CBS. So if you live in a market that has a 4 o'clock news program on their CBS affiliate, you won't have it unless it's on an alternate channel and you really want to know where to fish for it. So CBS, 2 to NA, Unimas. They all have Barca and PSG at 3 o'clock. On the plus, championship, Southampton, Preston North End, that's at 3 o'clock. Right now, the championship is crazy, and everybody is trying to get into the final spots, and you're trying to avoid the drop. Southampton, big favorite today, no real surprise. But here's the deal going into the championship. You've only got a handful of matches to go. It could be as many as 4 or 5 if you're Southampton. This is the equalizer for Southampton to get them to having only 4 matches to go on their end. Everybody else has either 3. Most of the have 3 matches to go after today, and some already have only 3 matches to go. So here's what it's looking like. Some have 4, most have 3. Southampton, they have 5. They're the odd duck with 5. They'll close to 4 today. Here's how it is currently. Ipswich and Leicester, 89 and 88 points. They are in the automatic promotion spots. Leicester has a match in hand. Leeds is at 87 points. They are in the first playoff spot. So once again, 3 teams separated by 2 points. The other playoff spot, Southampton, obviously, with matches in hand, they're in 4th at 81. West Brom and Norwich each have 3 matches to go, 72 and 71. They've got a bit of a cushion between them and Hull, the first team outside, who's in 7th at 65. Now, the drop. Rotherham had only won 4 in their first 43. They're out. They're done. Now the fun starts. Blackburn, Plymouth, QPR, Stoke, Birmingham, Huddersfield, Sheffield Wednesday. 7 teams separated by 5 points right now in the drop zone. Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday, both with 44 points. So that's what you're staring at right now. Birmingham's at 45. They've lost 3 of 4. Stoke, 47. QPR, 47. Plymouth Argyle, 48. Blackburn, 49. And Millwall, 50, if you really want to get into it. So 8 teams, 6 points. 7 teams, 5 points. 2 of those will go in the drop into League One. So that is the craziness right now currently going on in the championship. Paramount Plus is a very busy day in the Asian Champions League. They have the league that we neither condone nor endorse going on at noon. And Argentine Primera, they have 4 matches at 6:30. Belgrano Racing Club, Boca Juniors, Godoy Cruz, our buddies at Defensa y Justicia taking on Newell's Old Boys at 6:30, and Lanús and Estudiantes at 6:30. Brasileiro at 8:30, Bahia and Fluminense, plus both Champions League matchups are on Paramount Plus, Barca, PSG, and Dortmund and Atletico Madrid. Once again, USsoccer.com has all of the third-round action in Open Cup. You can also go to MLSsoccer.com and USLsoccer.com. VIX has your simulcast in Champions League. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. Now, once again, give you the programming notes for today coming up in short order. Manchester City have opened talks with Wolves about possibly signing wingback Ryan Ait-Nouri. Spurs have made an offer to Fulham for Tosin Adarabioyo as they try to beat Manchester United in the race for the defender. Newcastle looking into the possibility of signing Adarabioyo along with center back Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth, both out of contract in the summer. United showing an interest in Sporting Lisbon's Victor Gyökeres, but fear Liverpool could beat him to it. Barcelona rejected an offer from a Premier League club unnamed for Rafinha. Liverpool can sign Sporting Lisbon center back Gonzalo Inacio for £40 million. Liverpool have identified Sunderland England U21 keeper Anthony Patterson as a potential replacement for Shalman Kelleher. That's from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Newcastle intensifying their scouting of RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko as they look to beat United and Chelsea to the signing of the striker. West Ham have made inquiries about Panathinaikos striker Fotis Ioannidis. West Ham also scouted Real Betis' Juan Miranda, although Brentford, Crystal Palace, and Wolves are also keeping an eye on the left back. Chelsea triggered contract extensions for Enzo Fernandez and Mihailo Mudryk, with both 23-year-olds having another year added to long-term deals. 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. And remember that when you sign these deals, once again, you're deferring the overall cost of the transfer fee, and you're controlling the asset. So if Mudryk, who has 6 or now 7 years left on his deal, you can control him financially and see if you have any takers for either Enzo or Mudryk. Milan remained informed about the situation on Fiorentina's Sofian Amrabat, currently on loan to Manchester United, not getting a whole lot of run. Spurs right back Jed Spence, currently on loan with Genoa, one of several senior players expected to leave Spurs in the summer. Manchester City one of a number of European clubs monitoring 15-year-old Porto youth winger Cardoso Varela. Chelsea and Everton, as Frank Lampard, we mentioned that one. Bayern Munich want Nagelsmann to return to the club to replace Thomas Tuchel, who's leaving at the end of the year. So that is gossip, rumor, and innuendo. What else is going on today on the network? Once again, remember, a little before 5 o'clock, it is on our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Ware County and Decatur. Girls, first round of the playoffs. It's going to be at Decatur, so we're going to be on the air a little before 5 o'clock for that one. One match today. Some situations in the Georgia high school playoffs, they give you double headers. We've got one tomorrow. It is a double header at Hillgrove, and at Hillgrove High School in Powder Springs, where they got to combine the girls match and the boys match into one day. Traditionally, it would be on back-to-back days, but because they got the okie doke from the participating schools, they've combined it into one day, and it will be with the calendar. It's going to be a 6 o'clock and an 8 o'clock kick at Hillgrove when it comes to the first round of their playoffs, and we will be there for the action there. 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. It is the boys and the girls. It is Pebblebrook on one side, and once again, doubleheader 6 and 8 on tomorrow. Then we're still chasing our Wednesday game, or just still chasing our Thursday match on the girls' side, and we are still chasing our Friday match on the boys' side. We know where we want to go. We're just looking for permissions to come on in and call those matches. But 5 o'clock today, a little before 6 o'clock tomorrow for the doubleheader from Hillgrove. Soccerdownhere.mixler.com. The playoffs start here on the SDH network in earnest later on this afternoon. Once again, thanks to everybody who was listening to our broadcast of the 2's. We'll have Atlanta United 2 soccer on the network all season long, and we might have some other things to mention coming up down the line. But once again, Atlanta United 2 on the SDH network. It was Jarrett, Maddie, and Jason last night, and we will have all the 2's broadcasts with you on the network here in 2024. And can't thank Atlanta United and the 2's enough for all of their patience in dealing with us on a weekly basis and letting us have the platform to be able to share with you the next generation when it comes to Atlanta United and going into MLS Next Pro. So that is a show, and we'll be back at it again less than 22 hours. We'll be discussing everything that goes on today. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Once again, thanks to our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps for hanging out. I've got to elevate that sign just a little bit, probably about 3 inches, and we'll continue to go from there. Derek, as always, thanks for hanging out with us tomorrow. Once again, Tyler Pilgrim dropping in at 9:15. See if we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, at 10, and then playoffs from Hillgrove on Wednesday night. So it was a very, very busy day. Thanks to Bart for answering the Bart signal and coming in to discuss philosophically what goes on with referees in situations that we looked at this past weekend and what needs to be addressed with rules going forward. So we'll talk about stuff. That's the official term. And thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us, as you always do. We'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning. Since it is the end of the show, that means that I get to do this. Mucha plati, y'all. Play it safe. And we'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning. And yeah, we'll see you later. How's that for the ending of a show when you couldn't find something? You're trying to filibuster waiting for the close, which is right here. We'll see you once again 9:05 Eastern tomorrow morning.